Hello there, spirit warriors. Have you ever felt like life buried you alive, layer after layer of disappointment, setbacks, and heartbreak, until you couldn't even see the light anymore? It's that suffocating moment when everything you've worked for seems to crumble, and you're left wondering if you've been forgotten entirely. But here's the twist. What if I told you that the burial wasn't meant to end you, but to prepare you? Nature itself whispers this truth. A seed cannot grow unless it is buried. It's not tossed in the sunlight and told to sprout instantly. No, it's placed deep in the darkness, pressed under the weight of soil, where no one can see the quiet transformation taking place. In that hidden place, roots form, strength builds. The seed learns to draw nourishment from the very soil that covers it. Botanists will tell you that the pressure and resistance a seed faces when pushing through the soil is exactly what makes it strong enough to survive above ground. Without that struggle, it wouldn't last a day in the open air. Spiritually, the same is true for you. The weight you feel isn't there to crush you, it's there to cultivate you. The loneliness, the setbacks, the rejections, they are not signs of abandonment, but indicators that your roots are growing deep, anchoring you for the greatness ahead. Think about bamboo. For years, nothing appears above ground. Farmers water it, nurture it, and see no progress. But once it's ready, bamboo can grow over 90 feet in just a few weeks. Your breakthrough works the same way. Those who have counted you out don't realize that you're germinating. Every trial has been feeding your resilience, every tear watering your determination. And when your time comes to break through the surface, your growth will be unstoppable. So stop viewing your burial as the end. It's the beginning of your bloom. This is not a grave, it's a garden. You're not done, you're in development. And when the season shifts in your favor, the same people who once threw dirt on you will be in awe of the forest you've become. Today, I want to help you see that every bit of dirt life has thrown your way can be transformed into the rich soil of purpose. Your blooming season is closer than you think. Stay with me, because what's coming for you is bigger, brighter, and more beautiful than anything that's ever been against you. Point 1, the divine pruning. Have you ever stood in a garden and watched a master gardener at work? At first glance, the process can be startling. Green leaves falling in gentle showers to the ground, strong branches clipped without a moment's hesitation, and a lush, thriving plant suddenly left bare and exposed. To the untrained eye, it looks almost cruel, like the gardener is destroying the very thing they've nurtured. But in reality, this is a skillful, purposeful act rooted in centuries of agricultural wisdom. Every cut is intentional. Every removal has a reason. Pruning is not random destruction. It's a strategic investment in the plant's future. Without it, a plant wastes precious energy feeding weak or unnecessary growth. It might survive, but it will never thrive because its resources are scattered instead of concentrated where they can produce the most fruit. Horticulturists know this. Pruning stimulates growth, strengthens the structure, and allows sunlight and nutrients to reach the parts that matter most. What appears to be loss is actually the first stage of renewal. This is exactly how God works in the lives of his spirit warriors. In John 15:2, Jesus says, "Every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful." Notice the detail. He doesn't only remove the dead or diseased parts. Sometimes he trims away what is healthy, vibrant, and even precious to us. And that's where our faith gets tested. We can understand losing toxic relationships, bad habits, or harmful influences. But what about when God takes away something good? That job you excelled in, that friendship you treasured, that opportunity you thought was the gateway to your destiny. The pruning shears of God are never careless. They cut according to a vision you can't yet see. He isn't reacting to your present, he's shaping your future. For spiritual warriors, pruning is essential training. In battle, every ounce of weight matters. A soldier doesn't carry sentimental items into the fight, only what will help them win. A sword is heavy enough without extra baggage strapped to your back. God removes anything that slows your stride, dulls your focus, or drains your energy. It's not a punishment, it's positioning. That season where certain people leave, where distractions vanish, and where comfort zones are stripped away may feel like loss, but in reality it's your preparation for greater assignments. Biologically, pruning forces a plant to redirect its nutrients toward the branches that remain. Those branches grow thicker, stronger, and more fruitful. Spiritually, the same happens in you. The emotional energy you once poured into keeping the wrong people happy or maintaining fruitless ventures is suddenly freed. Now that energy can be invested into your calling, your personal growth, and your divine mission. You become more focused, more resilient, and more deeply rooted in your purpose. The enemy will always try to make you see pruning as punishment. He'll whisper that you've been abandoned, that you're empty, that you're shrinking instead of expanding. But God's perspective is completely different. He sees the full picture. He knows that the barren stage after the cut is not the end, but the incubation period before a season of overflowing abundance. Just as farmers know that a well-pruned vineyard will yield a richer harvest in due time, God knows that your stripped-down season is setting the stage for a greater bloom. Here's the truth. Pruning doesn't just prepare you, it reveals you. It strips away what is unnecessary so the core of who you are in Christ can stand in the open, stronger than before. You stop leaning on what was comfortable and start depending on the one who holds the shears. And when new growth comes, and it will be more vibrant, more impactful, and more enduring than anything you lost. So, warrior, trust the gardener. His cuts are not marks of rejection, but signatures of love and foresight. Each removal is a divine strategy, not an accident. When the next chapter unfolds, you'll see that the very things you mourned were making space for something far greater. And you will stand firm, rooted, resilient, and unshaken, knowing that every cut was part of your victory. The pruning wasn't the end of your story, it was the beginning of your harvest. Point 2. Your roots run deep in the dark. When a seed is buried, spirit warriors, most people assume it's just lying there in silence, doing nothing. But nature has a way of proving that stillness is often the most powerful kind of movement. Beneath the soil, that seed is a quiet architect, engineering its masterpiece in a place no one can see. It's stretching delicate tendrils into the darkness, drinking in hidden waters, and anchoring itself with a grip so strong that even the fiercest storm will fail to rip it free. This is what I call the root building season. And make no mistake, it's not glamorous. There's no applause in the dirt, no Instagram-worthy moments under the soil. It's dark, it's lonely, it's silent, but it is also sacred. Your life works the same way. There will be seasons when you feel invisible, when no one notices the battles you're fighting, the progress you're making, or the faith you're holding on to. These aren't wasted days. These are strategic days. Life is not punishing you when you feel buried. It is preparing you. Just as roots are a plant's hidden source of power, your unseen growth seasons are building your resilience, your faith, and your unshakable core. Without this deep anchoring, even a small gust of adversity could topple you, but with it you can withstand the hurricanes of life without losing your footing. Science even confirms this spiritual truth. Botanists have found that plants with deep root systems survive droughts, floods, and extreme weather far better than those with shallow ones. Deep roots store more nutrients, tap into water sources that shallow plants can't reach, and stabilize the plant against shifting soil. Spiritually, your deep roots are your principles, your faith, and the hard-won wisdom you collect in seasons of trial. The more intense the challenge, the deeper you're digging into your spiritual foundation. God often hides your growth for a season because what's unseen is far more important than what's on display. And here's something most people misunderstand. Darkness isn't your enemy. In fact, the seed needs darkness to awaken. It's the very pressure of the soil, the stillness and the moisture that trigger life inside it. Without that covering, the seed would dry out and die. In the same way, your difficult seasons, whether it's heartbreak, financial pressure, rejection, or loss, are not signs that you're finished. They're proof that you're being equipped. Every disappointment is teaching you patience. Every setback is sharpening your discernment. Every trial is tempering your inner steel. When the spotlight finally finds you, it's these qualities, not your charm, not your talent, that will keep you standing. The danger comes when you try to force growth before your roots are ready. If a seed sprouts too soon, before it has anchored itself, the first gust of wind will yank it from the ground. This is why many people burn out when they finally get their shot. They demanded visibility before they developed stability. Spirit warriors know better. You know the value of hidden seasons. You understand that obscurity is where you figure out who you really are. when no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one's validating your effort. That's when the real foundation is laid. There's also a fascinating truth from agriculture. In certain trees, like the oak, the root system can grow 2 to 3 times deeper than the visible height of the tree before the trunk ever starts to rise significantly. Farmers know this is the best insurance against drought and wind. The oak's unseen commitment to its foundation is what makes it stand for centuries. Spirit warriors, your calling works the same way. Your unseen work will always be your greatest protection. So if you feel buried right now, don't panic. You're not being left behind. You're being fortified. Think of it like military training before battle. Soldiers aren't sent straight to the front lines. They're prepared in secret, in places the world will never see, so that when the day comes, they're ready for anything. You're in that kind of preparation right now. The silence you're hearing is not the absence of movement, it's the sound of roots growing. And here's the beautiful twist. Once the seed breaks through the soil, everyone will see the stem, the leaves, and the flowers. But only you will know the truth of what it took to stand there. You'll know the storms you survived before anyone even noticed you existed. You'll know the nights you didn't quit, the prayers you whispered in the dark, and the faith you clung to when everything looked like it was falling apart. That's why your bloom will be unstoppable, because it's not just a plant, it's a survivor. So, spirit warriors, embrace your root-building season. Don't despise it, don't rush it, and don't underestimate it. The deeper your roots go, the higher your branches can reach, and when your moment comes, you won't just bloom, you'll bloom with a strength that can outlast the storms, because you were made in the dark, anchored in the unseen, and trained to be unshakable. You are not just growing, you are becoming unstoppable. And that, my friends, is the kind of growth the world can't ignore. Point 3, the pressure is part of the process. Spirit warriors gather in because this isn't just a pep talk, this is a battle cry wrapped in truth, science, and a bit of divine perspective. You've heard the line before. A diamond is just a piece of coal that handled pressure exceptionally well. Poetic, absolutely. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. It's also scientifically accurate. A diamond's journey begins as humble carbon, trapped deep beneath the Earth's surface, far from the glittering showcases and velvet boxes we associate it with. Down there, it's subjected to temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and pressures close to 725,000 pounds per square inch. Imagine the crushing force of a skyscraper balanced on your thumb. That's the level of intensity we're talking about. For millions of years, that carbon doesn't escape, doesn't crack. It transforms. It becomes one of the hardest known substances on Earth, a symbol of rarity, beauty, and endurance. Now here's the truth that may rattle your spirit before it steadies it. You, spirit warrior, are that carbon. The struggles you're facing right now, the long nights of uncertainty, the relentless responsibilities, the bills stacking up like bad Jenga moves, the relationships that leave scars instead of smiles. These are not random accidents. They are the geological forces of your soul's growth. Life isn't just throwing chaos at you, it's applying precision pressure. And while most see that pressure as punishment, the reality is this: God is not picking on you. He's picking you out. You're in the forge, not the landfill. Think about the refining process of gold for a moment. Pure gold doesn't roll straight out of the riverbed ready for a crown. It comes mixed with impurities, dirt, and rock. The only way to purify it is through fire, fire hot enough to melt away what doesn't belong, forcing the unwanted to rise to the surface. That heat doesn't destroy the gold, it reveals it. Spirit warriors, that's exactly what your trials are doing. Every betrayal you've endured stripped away a layer of naivety. Every season of lack trained your resourcefulness. Every rejection toughened your self-reliance. None of it was random and none of it was wasted. And here's the sobering part. Not everyone emerges from the pressure as a diamond. Some crumble like glass under the same force. The difference isn't the intensity of the trial, it's the endurance of the soul. You see, pressure exposes pretenders. Glass can look shiny under the shop lights, but under true stress it shatters. Diamonds, they hold. They don't just survive the heat, they're defined by it. And you, spirit warrior, have been built with the same endurance. Let's pull this out of the poetic and into the practical. Think about how athletes train. They push their bodies to the point of discomfort because muscles only grow through resistance. The same principle applies to your spirit. If you never face resistance, you never build resilience. If you never feel the squeeze, you never expand your capacity. Science even backs this up. Stress in the right doses can trigger hormesis, a biological phenomenon where small amounts of stress stimulate adaptation, making you stronger and more capable over time. Pressure isn't just a metaphor. It's biology, psychology, and spiritual truth rolled into one. But here's the key: your mindset in the midst of it. When the weight of life presses down, you can either panic and ask, why is this happening to me? Or you can shift your perspective and say, what is this preparing me for? That shift changes everything. Because a diamond doesn't resist the process, it endures it. It doesn't beg for a shortcut or wish for less heat. It trusts the process to do what it was meant to do, transform. And don't miss this. When a diamond is finally brought to the surface, it's still rough. It takes a skilled jeweler to cut and polish it before it becomes the sparkling treasure we admire. Your emergence from pressure isn't the end, it's the beginning of a new stage. God will shape you, refine you, and place you exactly where your brilliance is needed most. So, spirit warrior, if you feel buried, you're in good company. Seeds are buried before they grow. Diamonds are buried before they shine. Gold is buried before it's refined. Being underground isn't being forgotten, it's being formed. Every tear you've cried under the crushing weight, every moment you felt unseen or underestimated, every season you thought might break you, these are not signs of defeat. They are proof that the making of something rare and enduring is underway. One day, the world will see the light refracted through the facets God has been cutting into your life. They'll marvel at your resilience, your strength, and your beauty under pressure. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck, it wasn't ease, it wasn't privilege. It was the pressure, the heat, the darkness, and your refusal to break that made you shine. And that, spirit warrior, is why your current trial is not the end. It's the very process by which you're being prepared to step into your purpose, unshakable and undeniable. So stand your ground in the heat, hold steady under the weight. You're not being destroyed, you're being transformed. And when your time comes to emerge, you won't just sparkle, you'll blaze. Point 4, the waiting room is not the end. Have you ever noticed how the doctor's waiting room feels like time just freezes? You're flipping through old magazines from 3 years ago, staring at the clock, wondering if the second hand is broken. It's not exactly thrilling, but you also know that it's not your final destination. It's just a step before the actual appointment. That's exactly how life works sometimes. We find ourselves in seasons where nothing seems to be moving, nothing seems to be changing, and we start convincing ourselves that this must be all there is. But the truth is, the waiting room of life is never meant to be permanent. It's a holding space for preparation, refinement, and alignment with your greater purpose. For spirit warriors, this waiting room season is critical. In battle, a warrior doesn't rush into the fight without sharpening their sword or studying their enemy. The quiet time before the clash is where victory is secured. Spiritually, your waiting period is where God strengthens your endurance, deepens your faith, and clears out the baggage you can't take into your next season. Just like a soldier wouldn't go to war with a dull blade, you're not meant to step into your calling without spiritual sharpness. Here's the part many miss. Waiting isn't passive. It's not sitting on your couch with your arms crossed, muttering, well, God will do something eventually. No. Waiting is active preparation. It's prayer that digs deeper than surface-level requests. It's fasting that peels away distractions. It's building the discipline you'll need when the doors finally open. Studies in psychology even back this up. Delayed gratification often leads to greater long-term success. People who learn to master their emotions and resist the urge to force timing end up making wiser choices and avoiding unnecessary battles. And here's the thing, God does some of his best work behind the scenes. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there's no movement. Think of a seed planted underground. It's hidden from sight, but in that darkness it's developing the roots that will sustain its growth. If you dug it up too early just to check on it, you'd kill what was meant to bloom. Spirit warriors understand this principle. Patience isn't weakness, it's tactical power. The enemy loves to whisper in your ear during the wait, you're forgotten, nothing's changing. Maybe you missed your chance. But a true warrior knows that silence before a breakthrough often means the battle lines are being drawn in your favor. You're not stuck, you're being stationed. The waiting room is not a prison, it's God's training ground. So when you find yourself sitting there, watching others get called in before you, don't lose heart. Their appointment is not your appointment. Your time will come, and when it does, you'll walk into that room ready, spiritually armored, mentally focused, and unshakably aligned with your mission. Because here's the ultimate truth for every spirit warrior: the waiting room is where the strongest are forged. When God finally calls your name, you won't just be prepared, you'll be unstoppable. Point 5. You have to break through. Spirit warriors, the story of the oak tree begins long before its branches stretch toward the sky. It begins as a small, unassuming acorn buried in darkness. That acorn's destiny is not fulfilled by simply existing. It must face the most pivotal moment of its life, the breaking. A seed's greatest leap of faith is not in the planting, it's in allowing itself to crack wide open. Inside that shell lie life, potential, and greatness, but they can only emerge through a process that is painful, messy, and often misunderstood. Science calls this a process where the protective coat softens, moisture seeps in, and the seed swells until its casing can no longer contain it. The split might look like destruction, but it's actually transformation. Without it, the seed would remain trapped in comfort, slowly rotting away underground. And so it is with us. Our heartbreaks, failures, and betrayals are the plow blades cutting deep into our soil, making room for new life to take root. Think about it. If a seed refused to break, it would never sprout. Comfort, for both seeds and souls, is the silent killer of growth. That breakup you thought would destroy you, the job loss that wounded your pride, the season when everything crumbled, those moments were not punishments. They were invitations to shed the old shell that no longer fit you. Every loss stripped away who you thought you were so that you could discover who you were meant to be. This is one of life's great paradoxes. We must lose to gain, break to be remade, and sometimes be buried in the dark before we can bloom in the light. The Sufi mystic Rumi captured this truth perfectly. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Notice he didn't say the light comes through your trophies, your flawless moments, or your strength. It comes through the cracks, the very places you once tried to hide. In those fractures, there's room for spirit to move. In those broken pieces, your truest self has a chance to emerge. The Japanese art offers a beautiful reflection of this truth. Instead of concealing breaks in pottery, craftsmen repair them with lacquer mixed with gold, transforming the scars into the most celebrated parts of the object. What was once considered damaged becomes a work of rare beauty, more valuable than it was before it broke. Your life is no different. The gold that fills your cracks is the wisdom, resilience, and compassion forged in fire. So when life cracks you open, resist the urge to patch yourself up too quickly or to hide the pain from view. A seed doesn't fight the breaking, it surrenders to it, trusting that what comes next will justify the discomfort. Likewise, you must allow the process to work. Every shattering moment is loosening the shell that kept your potential locked away. You're not being destroyed, you're being released. The darkness of the soil is not your grave, it's your womb. And when you finally rise, roots deep and branches wide, the world will see not just a survivor, but a spirit warrior who was always destined to grow tall, strong, and unshakable. I can also enhance this with some real-world nature facts about seed breaking and resilience to deepen the educational side. Would you like me to do that next so your audience gets both inspiration and science? Point 6, God's GPS is never wrong. Sometimes life feels like you've taken the wrong exit, ended up in the middle of nowhere, and your carefully laid out plans are now sulking in the back seat, eating snacks while you grip the steering wheel, wondering how everything went sideways. Maybe you're staring at a situation that feels like a dead end, a job that isn't going anywhere, a relationship that's stalled, or a dream that seems further away than ever. But here's the spiritual truth every spirit warrior needs to hold on to. God's GPS doesn't make wrong turns. Those detours, delays, and long pauses that feel like wasted time, they're not accidents, they're divine recalculations. Just like a GPS system that knows every road, alley, and hidden backstreet, the divine navigator knows the terrain of your life far better than you ever could. Sometimes the straight highway you imagined is blocked for reasons you can't see, maybe for your protection, maybe because there's something you need to pick up along the way, and so God reroutes you. It might feel like the long way around, but along that winding path you're being led through landscapes that hold the lessons, people, and experiences essential for your destiny. And let's be honest, most of us love the idea of a grand calling, but hate the waiting room that comes with it. We think faster is better, that destiny should arrive like express shipping. But if life were only about speed, we'd end up unprepared when we got there. The scenic route, the one with the unexpected pit stops, is where your spiritual muscles grow. Those wrong turns are often the very places you discover patience, sharpen your discernment, and heal wounds you didn't even know were still there. God's plan isn't just about where He's taking you. It's about who you're becoming on the journey. In fact, the delays might be the very reason you'll be able to handle the blessing once it arrives. The Bible is full of stories that prove this point. Joseph was given dreams of leadership, yet before he ever wore the robe of authority, he endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Those years were not wasted, they were training. Moses, chosen to lead Israel to freedom, spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep before leading a nation. Even David, anointed as king as a teenager, spent years in obscurity, running from Saul and tending flocks before ever sitting on the throne. To the outside world, these paths looked like detours at best and disasters at worst. Yet each step, no matter how far from the destination it seemed, was perfectly crafted preparation. The same is true for you. What feels like wandering may be divine protection, and what feels like delay may be the exact pace you need to grow into your calling. So, Spirit Warrior, the next time you feel like life has thrown you into an endless traffic jam, resist the urge to lean on the horn and demand faster movement. Instead, look around. There's a reason you're in this lane, at this speed, in this season. Maybe the conversation you'll have today will open a door years from now. Maybe the skill you're quietly developing will become the key to your breakthrough. Maybe the person you meet on this detour will be the very one to help you step into your purpose. The truth is, you are not stuck. You are in motion. God's map doesn't have dead ends, only divine pauses and purposeful redirections. Every mile is leading you closer, even when it feels like you're going in circles. Trust the process, trust the pace, and above all, trust the one who sees the destination from the very beginning. You are exactly where you are meant to be. And when the time is right, you'll see how every detour was part of the perfect route all along. Point 7, your bloom is inevitable. Spirit warriors, listen closely, because this isn't just poetry, this is spiritual reality. Your bloom is not some maybe dangling in the wind. It's a guarantee sealed by the Creator Himself. A seed's destiny is written into its very DNA before it ever touches the soil. You could bury it under the heaviest dirt, hide it in the darkest corner, try to forget it exists. But the moment the right conditions hit, it will break through. That's because growth is not an option for what God has designed. It's a command embedded in its being. And you, Spirit Warrior, are that seed. You carry inside you divine programming that no betrayal, no delay, and no disappointment can erase. You are not waiting to see if you will rise. You are simply in the process of rising. Think about this. A seed doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to hear motivational speeches. It doesn't even need to feel ready. It simply responds to its environment. Give it water, give it light, give it time, and without a single ounce of drama, it transforms. Spiritually, you've already been given what you need, the water of God's Word, which refreshes and strengthens your soul, the sunlight of His grace, which warms even the coldest heart. And yes, even the soil of challenges, because the dirt people throw on you is the very thing that will root you deeper. The trials you're facing right now aren't proof that you're buried to be forgotten. They are proof that you're planted to be remembered. Here's where it gets almost unfair, in your favor. When a seed starts pushing through the soil, the people who buried it have no control over its timing. They don't get to schedule your breakthrough. They don't get to vote on your bloom. And they will not get a memo before you rise. One day they'll simply look up and see you standing tall, vibrant, and unshakable, dripping with the evidence of God's glory. It's not your job to convince them you're blooming. It's your job to stay rooted until you do. So stop pacing, stop biting your nails over whether you're behind. Seeds don't compare timelines. A sunflower doesn't look at a rose and panic. It blooms in its own season. Your season is already marked on heaven's calendar, and when it hits, your growth will be so rapid, it will shock everyone who thought they'd seen your last chapter. Spirit warrior, this is not about potential, it's about inevitability. Get ready to harvest what's been growing in secret, because the ones who tried to bury you are about to find themselves standing in the shade of your greatness. Your life is about to become a testimony. You're about to become living proof that they can throw dirt on you, they can stomp on you, but they can never stop you from blooming. So go forth, spirit warriors, go forth and bloom. And remember this, you are a seed, and it's time for you to grow. Now tell me in the comments below, what is one thing you're doing today to prepare for your bloom?